The last box I taped shut sounded like a small door closing. Cardboard sighed under my palms, tape rasping, sticky, loud, final. I stood in my son's guest room with my knees aching and my heart strangely light, surrounded by stacks labeled in my careful handwriting. Kitchen, linens, BOOKS, photo ALBUMS. As if naming things could keep them from changing. Downstairs, the house smelled of new paint and cinnamon coffee. Vanessa always kept a candle burning, the kind with a sweet label and a sweeter lie. Through the cracked window, I could hear a nail gun in the backyard, steady pops where contractors finished the in-law suite. My suite. The little apartment Caleb promised me. Your own bathroom, Mom. Your own door, will be right there. I'd held that promise on the nights my old house creaked around me, too big and too quiet after my husband died. Selling it felt like pulling a root out of the ground. The house was paid off. It was mine. It held 40 years of dinners and forgiveness. But Caleb showed me blueprints and hope, his voice thick at the closing table. I won't let you be alone, this is family, family. A word that tastes like comfort until it doesn't. A soft beep came from the dresser. Vanessa had left a baby monitor up here weeks ago when her sister visited. The screen was dark, but the audio was still on, a thin static that filled the room like distant rain. I'd meant to unplug it. I never did. Now the static cleared. Caleb's voice slid through first, low, rushed. Mom's almost unpacking, she's really excited. Vanessa laughed, not her porch laugh, not her isn't that lovely laugh. This one was sharp and private. Of course she is. She thinks she's moving in like some cute grandmother in a Hallmark movie. My fingers froze on the tape gun. Caleb exhaled. Van, don't. Oh, relax, she said, syrup over steel. I'm being practical. Do you know what people pay for a private suite with a separate entrance? We list it as an Airbnb and make back the renovation fast. Caleb hesitant, but we told her it was for her. We told her what she needed to hear to sign, Vanessa cut in. And I heard the clink of a mug, set down with confidence. She sold the house because she wanted to feel useful. You gave her a script, she performed. Cold rolled through my stomach as if someone opened a freezer door inside me. Caleb's voice softened. She's my mom. And she's old, Vanessa replied, suddenly flat. She needs care, you can't have her underfoot. Next week the facility I found has an opening. It's clean enough and it's cheap. We tell her it's temporary. For safety, she'll cry, then she'll adjust. Like I was a box you could ship away. Caleb whispered, she'll hate me. Vanessa's laugh returned, quiet and victorious. She won't, and once the money's in the contractor's hands, what can she do? She can't crawl back to that house she sold. Outside, the nail gun fired 3 quick pops like a heartbeat skipping. The room went crisp. Every detail sharpened. Dust in the window light, the slow tick of the wall clock, the bite of tape residue on my fingertips. My mouth tasted like pennies. Downstairs, Vanessa said brightly, besides, home gym, Airbnb, this house will finally match the life we're supposed to have. Caleb didn't answer for a long moment. Then small and broken. Okay, I stared at the ceiling vent, listening for the next excuse. None came. In the quiet, I heard my life inside the boxes. Photographs wrapped in newspaper, my husband's flannel folded like it still held him, a chipped teacup I couldn't throw away. I realized I depacked my past into cardboard for people who wouldn't keep me in the end. That one word was my son choosing her over me. I didn't scream. I didn't drop the tape. My body simply went quiet, like something vital switching off to keep the rest from shattering. I set the tape gun on top of the box marked photo ALBUMS and stared at the label until the letters blurred. All my sacrifices, my paid-off home, my memories, my independence, had been turned into a joke in someone else's kitchen. And downstairs, the people I loved were laughing. In the morning, I moved like a ghost through their kitchen. Sunlight slid across Vanessa's granite counters, making everything look clean enough to forgive. The house smelled of coffee, toast, and fresh drywall, new beginnings for them, an ending for me. Caleb sat at the island, scrolling his phone, wedding ring flashing when he lifted his mug. Vanessa hummed while she cracked eggs, wearing that soft smile she used for neighbors, the one that said, I'm kind. Morning, B, she chirped. You sleep okay? Like a rock, I said. Inside, I was anything but. Grief taught me how to stand upright while something collapses in your chest. I watched Vanessa slide an omelet onto a plate, steam rising like a prayer. This is what I'd done for decades. Feed my son, smooth his hair, tell him the world would be gentle. I set 3 plates down, stirred sugar into my tea, and listened to the clock tick above the fridge. Tick, 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 time counting down to the facility Vanessa had already chosen. Caleb glanced up. Big day, he said, trying for cheerful. Contractors are finishing the suite trim. Once the final payment clears, we're basically done. I smiled like a mother, not like a woman who'd been gutted. I'm proud of you. Vanessa's eyes warmed, satisfied like praise was a receipt. It's going to be gorgeous, she said. And it's such a relief you being close, safer, safer. The word slid under my skin like a needle. I took a bite that tasted like paper and nodded. After breakfast, I need to run an errand. Caleb lifted his brows. Want me to drive you? No, I said too fast, then softened it. Something at the bank. I'll be back before lunch. Vanessa waved a hand. Of course, take your time. They thought I was still the woman who signed papers because family asked. In my purse, beneath mints and a folded napkin, was the envelope my lawyer handed me at the closing. I hadn't opened it in weeks because the ink still smelled like goodbye. I sold my paid-off house for them, but my attorney, Ms. Leland, had insisted on a little protection. You're generous, B, she'd said, not foolish. The bank smelled of toner and winter coats. Ms. Leland met me in a small conference room with a legal pad already waiting. You look tired, she said. I heard them, I replied. They're putting me in a nursing home. Ms. Leland didn't gasp. Her eyes narrowed the way a nurse's do when a patient's numbers turn dangerous. All right, she said. Then we do exactly what we discussed. She slid a document toward me. Conditional transfer agreement. The language was plain once you stopped trusting it. Funds held in escrow, release contingent on my final authorization at move-in. The money hadn't truly become theirs yet. It was sitting, patient, waiting for my signature like a door only I could unlock. My hands trembled, not fear but clarity. I remembered Caleb at 8, clinging to my skirt after a nightmare. Caleb at 16, crying in my lap when Thomas died. I remembered promising I'd never let the world harden him. And yet here he was, grown, quiet, letting someone else decide my fate because it was easier than arguing. Ms. Leland placed a pen beside the line. If you sign here, she said, the escrow is revoked. The funds return to you. And we file a lien notice so they can't pretend this suite was paid for with their money. The pen looked ordinary. My whole life I had signed things for love. Permission slips, mortgage papers, hospice forms. Love always asked for ink. All night I'd pictured my old living room. The dent in the armchair where Thomas read the paper. The lemon polish on the mantel. The hollow echo after he was gone. I'd sold that quiet sanctuary so I wouldn't be alone. Funny, alone is a room, betrayal is a house full of people, and they were charging me rent. Tonight, love was going to learn about terms and conditions. I inhaled slowly. Fluorescent lights hummed. Somewhere beyond the wall, a teller laughed. B, Ms. Leland asked softly, are you sure? I thought of Vanessa's laugh through the baby monitor. I thought of Caleb saying, okay. My signature landed clean and final. The transfer died with one line of ink. Move-in day arrived dressed as a celebration. Vanessa hung a welcome home sign on the back porch railing, the kind printed in cheerful cursive. It flapped in the breeze like a joke trying to look innocent. Inside, she lit 3 candles, vanilla, cedar, and something called fresh linen, as if scent could erase intention. I sat at the kitchen table with my teacup, hands wrapped around the warmth, listening to the house's new sounds. Contractors, boots on hardwood, the squeal of a dolly wheel. The steady buzz of a drill in the backyard suite. The clock ticked above the fridge, each second sharp as a fingernail tap. Caleb kept checking his phone, a nervous habit I recognized from childhood, like refreshing the screen could change the world into something easier. Vanessa was practically vibrating with excitement. She'd put on lipstick at 10 in the morning, the shade she wore to weddings and funerals, the events where women perform. Any minute now, she said, glancing at the doorway like the money might walk in wearing a suit. Once the final payment clears, we can book the glass doors and the spa shower. That's what buyers expect. Buyers, not me, not family, buyers. Caleb's mouth twitched. Vanessa, mom's right here. Vanessa's smile didn't falter. Oh, B knows I'm just thinking ahead, she said, tapping my shoulder as if affection was a stamp. It's all for the family. For a moment, the room held the kind of fragile peace people build on lies. Then the front door opened and the foreman stepped inside, hard hat in hand, face tight. Caleb, he asked. Caleb stood too fast. Yeah, everything okay, the foreman rubbed his neck. We've got a problem with the payment schedule. Vanessa's eyes narrowed. What problem? Our office didn't receive the transfer that was due this morning, he said carefully. We've got crews here, materials ordered. If the funds aren't cleared by noon, I have to stop work. Stop work. The words fell into the kitchen like a dropped plate. Caleb's phone buzzed. He looked down, and I watched the color drain from his face, the way it does when someone reads a diagnosis they weren't prepared for. He swallowed. It says the escrow transfer was canceled. Vanessa's head snapped toward him. What? Caleb's hands shook as he refreshed the screen. Canceled. There's a notice from the bank. Mom had to authorize it. She must have. Vanessa's gaze moved to me, slowly, like a spotlight finding the person it was never meant to illuminate. B, she said, voice too sweet, too careful. What is this? I took a sip of tea. It tasted like chamomile and something sharper, relief. The house was loud with tension now, drill buzzing outside, boots shuffling, the foreman clearing his throat. Caleb turned to me, eyes wide and wounded. Mom, did you cancel it? I set my cup down gently. Yes. The word was small, the impact was not. Vanessa's face twisted. You can't do that. That money was for the suite, our renovation. It was for my home, I corrected, calm as a winter lake. The home you promised. The in-law suite you told me I'd live in. Caleb's mouth opened. Mom, of course, I held up my hand. Don't, I said quietly. Don't lie again, I heard you. Silence dropped like a curtain. Vanessa's eyes flashed. Heard us. You were snooping. I was packing, I said. In the room with the baby monitor you forgot to unplug. Caleb's face crumpled. Mom, wait. I heard you laugh, I continued, voice even. I heard you talk about listing my suite as an Airbnb, a home gym. I heard you say you'd put me in a cheap facility next week and tell me it was temporary. Vanessa's lips parted, then snapped shut. She darted a glance at Caleb, panic disguised as indignation. Caleb whispered, Mom, we were just, Vanessa was just. You said okay, I said softly. That was the dagger, not Vanessa's plan, Caleb's agreement. He flinched like I'd slapped him. Vanessa exploded. You're being dramatic. You're old, B, you need care, and we're giving you a plan. You should be grateful we even. I stood slowly, joints stiff, spine straight. Grateful, I repeated, tasting the word like something spoiled. For being tricked into funding your dream house and then discarded. The foreman shifted uncomfortably. Look, folks, Vanessa rounded on him. We're fine, give us a minute. He hesitated, then stepped back toward the door, already mentally pulling his crew off the job. Caleb reached for my hand. Mom, please, we can fix this. I'll talk to Vanessa. We'll make it right, just release the transfer. I looked at my son, really looked. Not at the little boy with scraped knees, but at the man who could trade his mother for peace with his wife. I already did make it right, I said. Vanessa's voice rose, sharp and ugly now. You selfish, do you know what this will do to us? The contractors, the loans. I know exactly, I said. Caleb's eyes filled. Mom, where will you go? I picked up my teacup again, calm as if the kitchen weren't burning. Somewhere I'm not a line item. Vanessa lunged toward the papers on the counter, as if she could find a loophole in my calm. Caleb sank into a chair, hands in his hair, breathing like he couldn't get enough air. I watched them with a strange, quiet sadness, and something colder beneath it. Love, I said softly, isn't free. It accrues interest. And I let that line hang in the room like a final bill. 6 weeks after I canceled the transfer, their house sounded different, not louder, quieter. Like the walls were listening. When I came for my last boxes, the back porch smelled of wet lumber and unfinished dreams. The contractors were gone. The suite door, the one Vanessa planned to rent by the night, still had no handle. It opened to a hollow room where insulation showed like exposed ribs. Inside, the welcome home sign lay face down by the stairs. The air no longer smelled like cinnamon candles. It smelled like stale takeout and panic. Caleb met me in the hallway with red eyes. "Mom," he said, voice small, "can we talk?" I set my box on the bench, tea set, Thomas's gift, taped like a promise I'd stopped trusting. "I'm listening," I said. He swallowed. "The bank called the loan. They said the remodel was tied to your escrow. Without it, we're in default." His voice cracked. "Vanessa says it's your fault." "Is it?" I asked. He shook his head once. "No, it's ours, mine." Footsteps hammered upstairs. Vanessa appeared at the landing, hair clipped tight, anger already loaded. "Look who's back," she snapped. "Come to gloat." Vanessa marched down, each step a verdict. "You ruined us," she said, pointing. "Contractors walked off. Neighbors are asking questions. I'm embarrassed." "Embarrassed," I repeated. "Is that what you call planning to put me away and keep my money?" Her face twitched. "That was Caleb's idea too," she spat. "He agreed." Caleb flinched. "Vanessa, oh don't," she hissed. "You wanted peace. You wanted your mother out of the way. Now you're crying because she fought back." Vanessa lifted her chin. "If you just sign like a good little—" "Enough," Caleb said, loud enough to startle even me. Vanessa blinked. "Excuse me." Caleb's hands shook, but he didn't shrink. "We're not blaming her for what we planned," he said. His eyes flicked to mine, wet and ashamed. "Mom, I'm sorry." Vanessa laughed, brittle. "So you're choosing her." Caleb's voice went quiet, steady. "I'm choosing the truth." Vanessa stared, then stormed upstairs. A door slammed. A suitcase zipper rasped, sharp, final. 10 minutes later, she swept past us, perfume and pride, and walked out as if the house was beneath her. When her car pulled away, the silence wasn't peace. It was aftermath. Caleb leaned against the wall, breathing like he'd been underwater. "She's leaving," he said. "You're not a child," I told him. "You can't keep trading people's hearts for quiet." He wiped his face. "I wanted you close, I just didn't want to fight." "And now?" I asked. His eyes closed. "Now I'm fighting anyway." The foreclosure notice came a month later. Caleb downsized to a small apartment and called me with a voice that sounded scraped raw. He asked for nothing except, "Will you have lunch with me sometimes?" I said yes, not because everything was forgiven, but because love can be strict without being cruel. As for me, I bought a small condo across town. Morning sunlight pooled on the floor. The balcony faced trees instead of expectations. The first night, I unpacked my tea set and placed the cups in a cabinet that was mine alone. The clock ticked softly, not a countdown, but proof I still own time. I slept with the window cracked that first night, listening to ordinary sounds: an elevator humming, someone's laughter, rain tapping the railing. No one needed me to prove my worth. I was simply a woman in her own room. In spring, I took 3 days to the coast. I walked the shoreline in a wool coat, breathing salt and wind, letting the horizon remind me the world is bigger than family disappointment. I mailed myself a postcard that said, "You're still here." One afternoon, my neighbor, Mrs. Duval, stopped me by the mailboxes. "Do you have children?" she asked kindly. I smiled, the kind that doesn't invite questions. "I have a life," I said, and changed the subject. That night, wrapped in a blanket, I watched city lights blink on one by one like choices. I thought of Thomas, of the house I sold, of Caleb as a boy, and of the thin line between devotion and self-erasure. In the end, I didn't lose everything. I lost the version of motherhood that demanded I disappear, and I bought my freedom with the price of a son.